aspect of the system then is Premium Access, and Premium Access will add some additional new features to the system. The first thing I want to do is I want to take you through how to get Premium Access licensed and running so that you know how to do that. So that is going to be done before we get into the live desktop. So I'm going to exit out here. I'm going to go to the main startup screen here, and in fact I'm going to go to shutdown, and you're going to go to administrator mode. This is where you're going to go turn, if somebody's bought Premium Access, where you're going to enable that feature. So you go to there, and under the system utilities, there's an option in here called enter feature key. So you're going to select that, and you're going to type in the Premium Access feature key that you would have. That's going to be a 15 alphanumeric digit thing you'll enter in. You'll hit enable feature, and once you entered it in, when you come back in to here, it should then say NewTek Annual Premium Access Subscription. So if you see that showing up, that means that it has accepted your code, and at that point, Premium Access is now available in the system. One other thing I do want to point out, since I'm in here, because this is another part of Premium Access that comes into play. When you get Premium Access, you also get our live panel, which we have had previously available, but it will be included automatically as part of Premium Access. One thing you might want to do is either enable or disable the live panel password, or change the live panel password to something else. That can be done through the same interface. Under System Utilities, go to the Set Live Panel Password, and here you can turn it on or off. The username will always be admin, but if you turn on the password, you can then enter a password as to whatever you'd like that to be. So I have mine off, but you can set that to whatever you like. It is normally on by default. Once you have those things set, you can go back into the system here, and now your system is ready to run with Premium Access, and we'll go back into the software and start looking at some of these new features in here. Okay, so we're back into the Rev 7 software. So let's first of all talk what the new features of Premium Access are, so that you have a better idea of what to expect in here. So Premium Access includes all of the following things in here. So live graphics. We're going to take and really look at live graphics, how you use them, how you build them. Advanced audio, we'll explain how that works. Live panel, which again we have had previously available, but I'll go through and show some of the new features in live panel that come in the Rev 7 version. NDI KVM, a personal favorite of the new features. Virtual PTZ, we'll take a look at that. There also is additional content. I'll show you some of the samples of the new content, and also one little extra new feature that probably very few people know about, but the ability to export your macros in other formats is something that's in there as well. So we'll take a look at that. So that's what you get once you install Premium Access. So let's start with live graphics. Live graphics is probably the big enhancement feature that many people are looking forward to. So live graphics is the ability to create animated title templates that you would use in the TriCaster, and then be able to call those up. They work very much like title templates that you're used to. So the learning curve on using these is very low, and but now they have animation to them. So let's start with just a simple, load one up, show you how you would operate with it, and then we'll take a look at how you'd build one if you wanted to build one from scratch in here. So all title templates, or all live graphics, I guess I should say more accurately, run in buffers. You cannot run these in a graphics player. All right, so you got to load them in one of your animated buffers to take advantage of this. So let's go to buffer 1, hit plus in here, and once you get the Premium Access content installed, you'll see that there's about 10 or so new live graphics title templates in here. All of them include a broadcast type graphic style and a sports. All right, so you'll see, there's all sorts of different ones in here. All these have animation in them. So I'm just going to go for one that's, I'll use this one here. It's got some very obvious animation, so I can point some things out in here. So I'm going to load in the broadcast style version of that. And once I've done that, you'll see that it's loaded up down in buffer 1, and buffer 1 is currently set up in downstream keyer 1. All right. Now, the first thing is you want to be able to call the different graphic templates in here. You'll see that if I actually bring this to air, that it's currently on the screen right now animating. And that's probably, I want to start by bringing the title on and bringing the title off. So how do you do that without like fading it in or fading it out using a transition? So the way that is done is once the title's loaded, if you click on the title just in an empty area, it will show you all the presets in here. And so you'll see in here, there's one preset that's called off. Right, that takes the title off, so I'll click on that one, and when you do that, you'll see that it has animated the title off the screen. And if I want to bring the title back on, I just pick the appropriate template I want to bring on. Maybe all I want is the lower third with no image or anything, so this one right here happens to be that, so I'll click on there, and you can see it's now brought on the title, and it's on the screen, and it will continue to stay on the screen until I click another preset, which will then take it off the screen. Now, templates can have multiple layer sets in them, so it does not have to be just one title template and that's it. Like this one, right now I've got a lower third on it, but this same title contains sidebar graphics in it as well. So let me bring on a sidebar graphic. I'll select one of those. You're going to see that this title will disappear off the screen. Now the sidebar graphic comes up, which is covering me up a little bit, but and you can see that that's on the screen. Here's a sidebar graphic that's on the other side of the screen. So now that one's going to animate off and the other one will animate on. Everything is designed to automatically animate off, then animate on, so that there are not collisions when your titles will play, so everything will be kind of nice and smooth and kind of work the way that you'd expect. And you could just click on the ones you want and we'll just go between these different modes in here. Now, so that's kind of how operation of them works. It's just you're just picking the style you want and it will go in there. Now, we can customize these to a little bit in here. So just like you would edit a normal title, you could click the A button down in the corner, and this will pull up the title editor. It looks just like the title editor you're used to in TriCaster. And if I wanted to, I could go in here and put my name in here. I can put, New Tech in there. Maybe I want to have the current date up here. Data link is fully compatible with this, so I can put data link fields in there, hit close, and you can see now I have an animated title with my my name on it, company on it. I've got the current date, so you can see when I was making this video. And there it is. And when I'm ready to take it off, I just click on it here, hit off, and you'll see all of that information animates off the screen. All right, so that's how a user would operate live graphics. Now, I would make macros to probably trigger the graphics I want in particular. There are buttons on the control surfaces to also trigger these. So when you look on the control surfaces, there's one let's say like layer set and CG select and stuff like that. And that buttons work with live graphics so that you can use those to bring these things on or off. But the next question usually comes, okay, that's great. You've got some sample ones in here. How do I build my own? How would I make a live graphic? And I'm going to spend a little bit of time in showing you all the steps. Now, there's kind of multiple levels you can do in here based upon how your skill level, what kind of capabilities you're looking for, and just what you're looking to accomplish in here. So let's start with the most basic, and then we'll take that up to the most advanced. So the most basic level is that once live graphics is installed, it also adds the ability to load a layered Photoshop file into a buffer, and you will have full editing ability on that title, just like you would a normal title template. Let me show you an example in here. So I'm going to go and hit load, and in here we'll go to my New Tech remote storage, and actually in here somewhere is a PSD file. So this is just a simple PSD graphic that I built. I'm going to open this up. And you'll see it just says name on it, right? And literally, if you looked at this in Photoshop, it's just a blue bar that I drew in Photoshop and then some text that I slapped on top of it in Photoshop. That's it, right? And then I saved it as a PSD file. But you'll notice that when I look down in the buffers now, there's an edit button just like you'd have in a title template. And if I click on that, it opens up the same title editor, and I can click where it says name, and I can now edit what that font says or what that text says right inside the system. So there, I've taken a PSD directly out of Photoshop, loaded into a buffer, and I now can make the same kind of changes I could make to it as I would a normal title template. So now all those Photoshop people out there literally can build titles that are editable for you right inside the TriCaster, and you just load them up and use them just like you always would. Now, these kind of titles are not going to have any animation on them if you do it this way. So this is still going to have the same still title aspect that you're used to, but again, it gives you a whole other tool to build these with, and it's very quick and easy. And you know, if all you know how to run is Photoshop, hey, now you can use Photoshop to even more ability to build titles for you. The next level is to actually build animation into it. And if we want to do that, we are going to need to use After Effects. After Effects is the tool that you would use to build animation. All right, now, when you install Premium Access, there is an additional plugin that will get installed inside After Effects, which is the Live Graphics Creator tool. Now, this tool is only available on Windows. Right, so to create live graphics ultimately does have to be done on a Windows system, but the mechanisms to build the actual animated title do not require the plugin to make that happen. So if somebody is a Macintosh user and they want to build titles for you, that's completely fine. All they need to know is a couple rules, which I'm going to explain in a few minutes here as to what those are. They could then build those titles in After Effects, and then you just need to bring them to a PC to use the plugin to do the final export. So from that standpoint, really any After Effects seat can be used, whether it has the plugin or not. All you need to do is use the plugin on one system to do the final export. Now you can install the plugin on multiple systems if you wanted to, but again, all you need is one system with the plugin installed to make these operate. So let's go to After Effects and take a look at the plugin here. So here is my laptop running After Effects. Now, there's kind of two levels in here that you have for building animation. The first is I don't really know how to use After Effects very well, but I want an animated title. And if you're fall into that camp, again, as long as you know how to use Photoshop, that's pretty much all you need to know how to do. So what you can do is you can go into this Import PSD. This will allow you to load a Photoshop document into the system. Once you've loaded it in, down below here, you can then apply animation. So each bar in here represents one of the layers of your Photoshop file with an intro, middle, and outro animation. And then you can go in and, for example, select these and then just drag on the animations that you want in here to apply those certain kinds of motions. And you can see there's a lot of different motion types that are available. One thing I'll point out, just because it caught me the first time, you can only use intro animations on the first box, and you can only use outro animations on the last box. So just if you're trying to drag something on a box and it's not accepting it, you're probably trying to drag either an intro or an outro, but into the wrong area in there. In the middle is the loop, and there's a few options in there, and again, those will only work in the middle of your anime or of your thing in there. So you could drag those pieces on, and then once you've done that, you could apply them, and this will actually take that animation you've applied and build that into an After Effects project, right? You'll actually be able to go into After Effects and you play it back and you'll see that animation applied. And if you don't like what it is, you can drag new animation on, hit apply again, and it will update the animation. So you can actually try it out inside After Effects to kind of verify that that's what you want. One thing that's also in here is a button called Smart Builder, and if you just click on that, it's going to randomly pick some intro and outro animations that it's going to put on there, and then you can see what it looks like when you try that. So if you've got a bunch of layers and you're just like, hey, let's just put something on there and see what we get, it just kind of makes it a quick and easy way to get a lot of animation applied into a title ready to go. So that's I don't know how to run After Effects very well, but I want an animated title. The thing I really want to focus on, though, is the expert, hey, I know how to run After Effects, and I just want to use After Effects to build a title, right? I don't go with this preset stuff. I want to do what I want to do, and that is allowed as well. The way that you would do that is you would build what you want in After Effects, just like you normally would. There's really nothing, for the most part, any special here, other than just making sure you follow the conventions of how an animation needs to be built. And once you see what these conventions are, they're very simple. So basically, every layer of the animation needs to be broken into 3 sections. It needs to have an intro section, a middle section, which is going to loop, and an outro section. All right, and so you can see if you look at my timeline here, I'll zoom in a little bit, that I've got a timeline here that as I scrub through it here, I've got an intro, there's a marker here, all right, and then there's another marker here, and then it goes to the end of my animation. So those markers that you see in the timeline, those are used to define where the 3 sections of animation are, all right? They're just a standard marker inside After Effects. There's nothing special about them. All I'm doing is placing them on the timeline at the appropriate location so that the system knows from the beginning to marker 1 is the intro, from marker 1 to marker 2 is the looping middle, and from the second marker to the end is the outgoing animation. And that's all you have to do to make a proper animation in here. So here's something I built in After Effects myself. I am not an After Effects master, but you can see in here that I have 2 layers. The text animates in one way. The blue bar behind it animates in a different way. So it animates on. All right, it would then loop in the middle, which I don't have any middle looping animation in here, but if I did, it would do whatever that is. And then it animates off, continuing in the same direction that it originally started in. So it kind of gives me a little bit of an animation like that. And if I wanted to see what the whole thing looked like, just played through, I could play it and see that's what my animation looks like. All right. So now that I've got that built and I have the appropriate markers in here, and again, all the animation is just be done using transforms. If I go in here and select one of these layers, it's just the transforms of there it is, of the positioner tools, and that could be scaling, rotation, any of the tools that you find in here. All right, so all of that's just been set. Then to export this out, all right, as a animation I can use in the TriCaster, we're going to go back to the Live Graphics Creator. And by the way, to pull up the Live Graphics Creator, if you just to see how to do this, it's under the Window menu inside After Effects, under Extensions, and then you'll see the NewTek Live Graphics Creator plugin. So you just open that up. It will generally open up as a floating window, but you can then dock it in the interface, or if you have 2 monitors, you can run it on a second monitor if you wanted to, or something like that as well. So once you've got your animation built, you're going to hit these clear update all, which is going to basically ask what you want to do. Do you just want to clear out everything, or do you want to update the plugin with what you've built inside After Effects? And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to say update my plugin with the latest version of the timeline I built in After Effects, which it's done now. And then you would just hit Export Live Graphic. And when you do that, it's going to ask if you happen to have more than one composition you're working on. It's going to ask which composition are you actually looking to pull in and export. Give it a name, and where do you want to export it to? And so in my case here, I'm exporting it to my Z drive, which is my NewTek remote storage, under this LG export. And let's just call this one my basic title export. Right, that's what I'm going to name it, and I'll hit save, and I'll hit export live graphic. This will take a little bit of time depending upon the complexity of your animation. This one's very simple, so it takes a relatively short amount of time. It's done already now, and now we can go back into the TriCaster and finish getting this live graphic working the way we want. So we'll go back in. We're back in TriCaster. Now let's load up my live graphic. And there is a little bit left we have to do with it to make it kind of finished. But at this point, we have something that we can start seeing working in here. So I'm going to go load, and I'm going to go browse and find on the Z drive here, live graphics export. There's the live basic title export. Remember, that's what I saved it as. So I'm going to open that up in here. And you can see that it just animated that on, right? And it says put name here because that's what it said in After Effects. And if I click on the edit button, I could edit what that text says just like I wanted to. But the one thing I still need to do is I need to create the layers, right? The on and off layers. Or if my animation, if I built multiple layers, I need to build the multiple presets that I want to bring the appropriate layers on and off. And currently none of those have been set yet. So to do that, we do that also in the Edit tool, and that's done using the Presets button that you'll find in the upper right corner of the window. If you click that, a little spring out menu appears along the side, and now we can start to create presets. So This title is very simple. It's got two presets. It's going to have an on preset and an off preset. So we're going to just snapshot the first one is the on preset. There you go. And you can see it just put what that graphic is. And then under layers here, this is where I can start to pick and choose which layers need to be visible for this preset. So in my case, I don't want any of the layers to be visible, right? That's the off preset, is all the layers off the screen. So if you just click at the top where it says all layers, it will just erase them all, right? So now you can see the title is blanked out. We'll click the little save button in here as well. And now I've got an on and an off. Now, one other thing I would highly recommend you also do is name these presets so that they are not just 1 and 2. So I can go in here and say this one is my on preset, and right click on this one, and do this one as my off preset. And that way, when somebody goes to use this, they kind of know which ones they're intended to use are these two presets here. So now if I want to test this one, I can click here. There's on, there's off, so let's bring it on. There's my updated, my animated title coming on the screen. There's going off the screen, and there we go. Now, you might ask, the last thing is, okay, I built those, but I don't have to go through those steps every single time that I build a title. I just want to load it up and have on and off automatically be set. And so what you're going to do is once you get this all built and you've tested all your layers and everything's working the way it is, you're going to go back into the editor and you're going to hit export. And this is going to create the final thing that you are going to use to load up after this whenever you want this live graphic. So I'll hit export. It asks where do I want to export it to. So let's go to my final live graphics here. We'll just call this one my cane blue title, let's say. That's what the final name for this thing's going to be. I'll hit save. All right, and now let's clear this out. And so whenever I want to use that title now, I'm just going to hit plus. I should be able to probably even find it in here if I look. Or just hit browse if otherwise I don't. There's cane blue, right? The cane blue title. I'll open that up in there. There it is. And now if you click, you can see it says on, off, everything I just saved in there. And when I'm ready, I can bring it on. And again, if I need to edit what it says, because I probably don't want to say that, I want to say my name, I just click on there, put my name on there. There we go. And now I've got my updated title in there that animates with my name on or off. So that is how live graphics works. All right, so you kind of see how you implement it in the UI, the different modes of getting content in, whether it be Photoshop directly, whether you use the plugin using Photoshop files, or just building what you want in After Effects. All of those modes can be used. One last thing I do want to point out in here is you might say, okay, this is all great, but what if I have multiple people's names I want to put on that title, right? It only looks like I can put, if I got 10 buffers, I can have 10 titles. That's only 10 people's names in there. You're not limited to that. Again, these can be data link fields, so they can be updated through data link is, of course, one way to manage multiple titles in there. But another thing we've also added are data presets, which you also see in the window. So you can create your own data presets as well. Let's say there's me and 2 other people that are going to be on the show. Using that same presets window, you'll see that on the left lower side or right lower side here are the data presets. So you would just create your title as you normally would. There's my Kane Peterson title. I'll snapshot that as the first data preset. Let's say this is guest 1. I'll snapshot that as the next preset, and let's say this is guest 2. And snapshot that as the next one. So now, if I wanted to use this title for multiple instances, I can take this off. It's off the screen. Let's bring my name back on. Bring it on. You see it now says Kane Peterson. Bring that off. Let's say guest 1 is now coming up. I'll select their name. Bring it on. You can see guest 1. So I can have up to 16 different sets of content or of data content being stored in each one of these that allows me to update them very quickly and easily. And of course, you can make macros to trigger those things, which is probably going to be a very good way to operate these. Live panel, which comes with part of it, we haven't looked at yet and is fully yet. You could then put those buttons on there. So there's a lot of ways that you can make this easy and accessible to people. And again, data link, you could have title updates using the data link tool inside live panel. You could update that text, write what's in there. So there's a lot of very creative and flexible ways to really implement live graphics in the system. I do want to point out one thing that live graphics really can't be used for, just because I've had a few people ask, and that is it builds animation that's on the screen. It basically fits one screen worth of information on there. Of course, multiple layers and all that kind of stuff. What it will not build are rolls and crawls. So if you are looking to build a roll or a crawl, again, you still get the built-in live text that comes with the system. That can build rolls and crawls. There are external CG applications that can do that as well, but I just want to point out that is a type of animation that really is not designed with live graphics in mind as to something you can build. So you can build all the animation you want on a screen, but it's kind of like what's contained in a screen as to what it is capable of doing. All right, so that hopefully gives you a very good idea of what live graphics can do, how you can use it, how you build stuff for it, and that you'll be successful with being able to operate it. The next new feature in here is the advanced audio I/O. Now, this is something that some people are going to find an extremely valuable tool, and some people, to be honest, might not see it as a very big deal. It depends upon kind of who you are and how your workflows work and stuff. But let me try to explain it a little bit, because this is much more explanation, I think, once you see what it all does as to why you would use it. And this comes under the idea that we have a built-in audio mixer in the TriCaster. And yes, there are people who use the audio mixer for everything. And if that's the case, you're probably not going to use this tool, this new feature as much. But there are equally, if not even more so, people out there that use an external audio mixer with the TriCaster. And in those cases, workflows can become a little tricky, right? You want to avoid audio feedback loops. You want to try to get all the audio channels in here out separately, especially like DDRs, a very common one people want to have. And it's not easy to do, especially if you want them all to be independent of each other. So advanced audio I/O is meant to help those kind of people, the kind of people who are going to have an external mixer that they're going to hook into the system, and they really want to have ultimate level integration between the two. So once you install it and you go in, or Premium Access, you install it and you go to the audio mixer is going to look very much like it did. The new feature in here is if I go into any one of the sources, whether it be an input or a DDR or the sounds player or the effects channel, right? Anything that generates audio inside the TriCaster, and I go to the routing tab, you'll see that there is a new option in here called the supplementary audio output device, all right, that it will not be there otherwise. If you don't have Premium Access, this won't be here. Now, I do want to point this out because this might confuse a few people. This option does show up in the outputs. If you go to aux 1 through 3 or the master, you will see this option even without Premium Access, all right? It is available there. All right, but you will not see it on any of the inputs. So if I go to input 1, if I don't have Premium Access, I'm not going to see this appear here. What this is going to let me do is take the audio that's coming in on this input and reroute it back out as another audio flavor, right? So, for example, I've got an NDI PTZ camera. Maybe I have a microphone hooked to it. So there's audio coming in. There's not actually, in this case right now, I don't have it hooked that way, but imagine there is audio coming in on input 1 as NDI. I want to send that out to maybe a Dante audio mixer, right? I've got an audio mixer, it's Dante. That guy's going to do all my audio sweetening and mixing. I want him to deal with it, all right? So how do I get my audio pushed over to him as Dante? I would use this. The audio is already coming in through input 1 under routing. I could then route it back out any of the built-in options in here. So I could say sent this out Dante 1 and 2. And now on Dante 1 and 2 outputs on this TriCaster, if I use the Dante controller software, I could then patch that into my Dante mixer and he would then get that audio. Effectively, I've made my TriCaster audio mixer function like a audio format converter, right? I'm bringing in NDI audio, I'm bringing in SDI embedded, I'm bringing in analog audio, right? Whatever, DDR audio, whatever the audio is, and I'm rerouting it back out as other audio flavors. That could be Dante, that could be AES67, it could be other audio drivers that you install in Windows, perhaps Wheatstone is another one out there. It could also be a USB professional audio device. So if I got an audio box that maybe it's got some analog common, thing. People want to get those DDRs out as extra analog audio channels. I could go into DDR1, go to routing, select the output of my analog, box that I connect to the system, USB box, and then that DDR can be running out independently out of that output and send the audio wherever it needs to go, be it a mixer, maybe even to a separate destination on its own or something. So you can really see it gives you a lot more flexibility of sending this audio out. Now my audio guy can work with it as he would like to or she would like to, and then maybe send that final mix back in as just as one input, or perhaps in my event, it then goes downstream to whatever the next thing is. So that's what Advanced Audio I/O will allow you to do. All right. The next enhancement is Live Panel. Now, Live Panel we've had available for a little bit here, but I want to just go through and show you just some of the new enhancements that are in here, because Live Panel has had a few enhancements added to it, so that you can take advantage of these. So, you open up Live Panel just by typing in the IP address or the name of your TriCaster. Here's the home screen, and again, I'm not going to go through everything, but I just want to point out what is new. So, in here, so the audio mixer allows us to adjust our audio levels. The new enhancement in here is I can now click on the gear, and I can now rename any input. So if I want to call this one, my mic input, let's just say that's what it was, I can close it, and you now see it's renamed. By the way, it's also renamed inside the TriCaster too. So you can see down here it says mic input. So the two will reflect that change for each other. So that's the audio adjustment. Otherwise, everything runs exactly as you remember, muting, soloing, adjusting the levels inside, all that kind of stuff. The data link, I do not believe anything's new in here, but as I mentioned, because this could be very useful with live graphics, and I don't think a lot of people have used data link in the past, you can go build your own set of keys. So for example, if I wanted to build a thing to change that name, right, in that title I just made, I could say, hey, I'm going to make a new key called name, and let's put a name of Bob in there by default, and I'll hit add. All right, when you do that, you'll get a custom category. And so there's my key and its value, Bob. And now if I go back into the TriCaster, just to show you in here that this works, let me pull up that title, right? There's what says guest 1 right now. I'm going to go edit that, and let me put my name data link key in there, and now you can see it says Bob. I'm going to go back over while you're watching the screen here and edit this. Let's call this one Mary, and hit submit, and you'll see I just updated it. So using the data link editor that's inside Live Panel, you can now easily update custom, make custom fields that people can update right from inside that panel. Media, the DDR controller. No major changes there, so you still have that in there. The switcher panel overall functions very much like it did, but they've reduced down the number of channels of video that it shows to you at once. That is because on some systems, especially underpowered like tablets and stuff, this could really overload it with so much video and network interaction that it got really sluggish. So you should find this runs better on a larger number of devices out there, since it's not trying to pull as many channels of video in simultaneously. On the flip side, that means there are more buttons along the bottom here to switch between all the different things in here that you might want to access. So anyways, that's the big change in the switcher panel. The builder panel is very similar. The big change in this one is in the now in the upper right corner, there's now an import and export button. So if you build a panel, you can now export that panel out and then re-import it onto another system, or perhaps you want to keep a backup because, again, somebody accidentally deletes it and then it's gone. Now you can easily restore it back into the system again. Or maybe you realize you want to rearrange the panels, right? I don't really want the thing I just built in panel 1 to be panel 1. I'd like it to be a different slot in here. You could export it, go to the new number, re-import it, and use that to rearrange it. So the import and export buttons are definitely a welcome enhancement that you will find in the Live Panel Builder application. And then lastly, an entirely new tool that did not exist before that is in here is the preview presets. So when I select this one, what this will do is whatever channel is currently on preview, you will see the PTZ presets for it. So I'm going to go over here just to show you. I'll go put channel 1 on preview. And now that I've done that, if I go back over here, you'll see that all the presets have now appeared, and I could just click the button to, send the camera to those locations in there. Just by pressing the button there. So now there's a built-in, real simple PTZ preset controller. Just whatever camera's on preview, hit the button or hit the preset, and this will change. If I'm just going to change it to camera 2, you'll see that all the presets went away. I come back to camera 1, all the presets come back. So it even updates those presets with the graphic images as you select those presets through the interface. So that's a really nice enhancement that you'll find inside a live panel. Okay, the next new feature is one of my personal favorites, and that is NDI KVM. So NDI KVM allows you to view and possibly even control the TriCaster from another computer on the network. Now, there is one thing you do need to do ahead of time to get this all set up. I've already done this, but I'm going to go through and show you what those settings are so you can take advantage of it. It can't be done in the live interface. This has to be done before you start the live interface up. So I'm going to exit out here back to the main, to the previous interface. And when you do this, you'll see in the upper right corner this little NDI KVM drop down in here. And if you click on it, there's a few options. So first of all, you can turn it off if you don't want it. All right, so if you just don't want any of this functionality, and that is the default, you can turn it to monitor only, and this will let people watch your screen, but they will not be able to take control of it. You can turn on full control, which will allow people to monitor at first, but then if they want, they can actually turn on full KVM control and actually have keyboard mouse interaction with your screen. And lastly, there's a security option, which if you do that, this allows you to put the NDI KVM and only the NDI KVM in its own NDI group. This is probably something you should do so that these sources stay separate from everything else, and that way you could have only certain systems set up to actually monitor and control these if they are part of the group. So you just put your group name in there, and then everything else in the system will still operate in whatever access manager has set up, but this source in particular, this NDI KVM source, will only appear on systems that happen to be joined to the same group name that you type in here. And you can put in multiple group names if you just put a commas between them, so it doesn't have to be just one. If you don't put any group name in like I have, it will just be part of the public group, which is what I have mine on right now. So once you've done that, you can now take control of it. So let me jump back over to my laptop, and I'm going to open up NDI Studio Monitor, and let me drag that over to the interface here. And so once you've done that, let's make this a little bigger. You will see that in my list of sources, when I look at my VMC system, you can see the user interface appears as an option. Now, because it's not in the live desktop, everything else it would display is not visible, but the user desktop is still there. Now, I will also point out that if you are running with multi-views, the multi-views will appear as well as additional options. I don't happen to have any multi-views running, I don't see them, but if you did, you might actually see those appear as well. So I'm going to pick the user interface, and you can now see that the user interface of my VMC system is now appearing inside NDI Studio Monitor, and I can resize the monitor and everything. Now, one other thing that also changes a little bit, you'll see that the little tool in the corner that you normally use to interact with has now become a little floating tool. It's got a little floating handle here, so you can move this anywhere on the screen that you want, so you can kind of get it in a good spot where it's not going to be in the way. The little hamburger menu allows you to change to other sources in there. And then if you click where it says KVM, this will turn on the KVM control. So if I do that, now you can see that as I move my pointer over, it's moving, it's actually selecting things. So let's go select live and start production. And from my laptop using NDI Studio Monitor, I've now just triggered my TriCaster or my VMC system to start up a session in here. I just want to show you what the performance is that you can get out of this. So really quickly here, I'm going to put my laptop on one side and the TriCaster or VMC on the other side. So now you can see both. And as I move the pointer around, you can see the pointer move on both monitors. So it's extremely tight interaction here. It's not there's virtually no lag between the two. And you will see that the frame rate you see on the local monitor, you get the same kind of video frame rate inside the NDI KVM. So you get full motion video. This is extremely usable to operate the system through this, not just it's not like using typical software remote desktop where maybe you get a few frames a second if you're lucky. I mean, here, if I didn't know better, I'd almost think I was locally connected to the system in the way that that it is operating in here. So let me jump back to my laptop. So I'm back on my laptop screen in here, and you can operate it just as you normally would. I could go open up menus. I can select buttons in here. It does everything that you would normally do. Now, a few things to point out here. The NDI KVM only works from the Windows platform, the Windows version of Studio Monitor. All right, so you do have to be running on that for this functionality to work. It does work beyond the TriCaster. I can exit all the way into Windows and still have NDI KVM control over that system. So I could go, change display settings or, reboot the system if I wanted to. And when the system boots back up, I'll have NDI KVM control over it again when it comes back up. So it works really well. The one restriction I do want to point out, just so you're aware and you account for this, you will not be able to do software updates through NDI KVM, because as soon as the software update starts, it is going to shut down any NDI applications that are running on there on the TriCaster VMC system. At that point, NDI KVM is not going to be working. So you will have to do software updates locally using the keyboard and mouse. But once they're finished and you're done with it, virtually everything else can be done through NDI KVM. The last thing is that this is just keyboard and mouse only. It is not general purpose USB that I'm connecting up through this remote connection. So if I plug a memory stick in to my laptop will see the memory stick, but the TriCaster is not going to see the memory stick. Same thing with the control surface. If I took a NewTek control surface and plugged in my laptop, the TriCaster is not in turn going to see that control surface. So if somebody is planning on using this and they do want a control surface, it would be highly recommended that they purchase one of our Ethernet-based control surfaces to go with the system, the long panel or a two-stripe, that have the Ethernet port, because then they could be using this and that control panel and have full operation from virtually anywhere on their local network. So this can be a great enhancement for some people. I could also see a very useful tool for people who use live graphics. Maybe your graphics artist is not, they're on a different floor in their building from where the studio is. They build a new title during the time where the system's not in use. They could literally, from their desktop, load up the TriCaster interface, load their titles in, get the layers all set, get everything programmed the way it is, so that when you come in, you've got live graphics that are final and ready to go. And they, if they saw an error in the title they were making, they could quickly make that change in After Effects, export it out again, not having to run upstairs, downstairs constantly to get that stuff done. So this could be a very useful enhancement in there. All right, another new feature is the virtual PTZ. All right, so when you have a source that is not a PTZ camera and you connect it to the system, you will get with Premium Access, you will get virtual PTZ control on it. So let me kind of show you what I mean by that. I'm going to change this to input 5, which I'm currently not using. And in fact, let's do input 6 as well. And so on this, I'm going to bring in off my laptop the test pattern tool, right? And I'm just going to bring the same test pattern tool in onto inputs. So it's the same thing in twice. All right, now when I open up one of these and you look at the panel, you'll see that there appears to be the same kind of controls that you'd have with PTZ, except it does say pan and scan on it instead of PTZ controls in here. All right, and so this allows you to set up pan and scan or virtual PTZ on that. So we could start with a, maybe full all the way out, and then let's do one where I zoom it in and move it to the upper corner in here. We'll snapshot that as another, and let's just move it to the other side over here as well and snapshot that one. All right, so now on input 5, I've added these virtual PTZ controls, and you'll be able to see that if I select them, you can see input 5 animating between those different positions in there, while input 6 of that same source is not. And in fact, on input 6, I could set up different virtual PTZ controls on there if I wanted to. So maybe I'll find a test pattern that this is a little more visible on. Let's put the NewTek logo in there. There we go. And you can see there's the NewTek logo full. Zoom into one side, zoom in the other. So this is something that, technically you can do without using Premium Access. You could load these sources into MEs and then resize them in MEs, but that does burn up a lot of MEs very quickly. So effectively now, every source has like a tiny ME built right into it that allows you to, zoom in and animate around on the screen, and you could set up that same source multiple times. A great workflow for this could be I bring a 4K source in. I have camera 1 be the wide shot, camera 2 be a close-up over here, camera 3 be a close-up over there, camera 4 be a close-up of yet another spot in there, and it's the same source in all 4 cameras, just using virtual PTZ to extract out the different shots I want from that source in there. So that's kind of one of the main ideas behind it, is to use it in a fashion just like that. Okay. You also get additional content with Premium Access. So let me show you some samples in here of some of the stuff you can get. So this is these are just different sets that are included. This is not all of the sets in here. I'm just kind of going to go through them here, kind of give you a few seconds to look at each one. Again, most of these sets have multiple angles available to them as well, so that you can have left, right, center. Some of them most of them are sit down, but a few of them are stand up sets. So you do get a variety of choices in there, and these are sets that are available for purchase previously. So you might see some of these and say, hey, I've seen that set before. Well, if you did buy some of the virtual sets that we had on the NewTek website for the other systems, we're now including all of those sets as part of Premium Access. So I didn't go count them all, but there's probably about 10 to 12 sets in there, somewhere like that, of additional content you'll get all ready to go. So that gives you an idea in some of them. You also get additional audio content. So if I go in here, there's all the Premium Access audio. I think each one of these has got, about 25 songs or something like that, 25 songs in there. So this gives you a bunch of free music that you could use. There's no lyrics to it, so it's just music. You can load these up and use them for whatever you need. They're great for maybe before a show starts. You're playing the slate. People are joining the stream. You want to feed them some music so that they know that the connection's live. It's great for a use like that. One last thing, as I mentioned, there is one other minor feature that snuck its way into Premium Access that I want to point out, and that is in the macros tool. There is some enhancements in there, so let's go take a look. So if you go in here, and let's say I want to export out my cane list of macros, I can right-click on this, hit export, and you'll see in the window that pops up that there is now different options as for different export types. So XD macros, this is the normal TriCaster macro format. And if you want to exchange macros between multiple TriCaster systems, or the intent is just, back them up for the TriCaster, this would be what you'd normally want to pick, is that. But there are some different options in here. Spreadsheet, which is an Excel spreadsheet file, JSON and JavaScript. So the other big one in here is spreadsheet. So there have been people out there where they do heavily macro designed programs, and they need to go and edit those macros. Maybe a change occurs or the next show coming up, and they know they need to go and tweak macros. And previously, the only way to edit a macro was to do it on the TriCaster. Well, if your TriCaster is being used for a good portion of every day, that could be a difficult time to find when is the system available for me to go update my macros so that I can, get my next show ready to go. So now you can export out macros as an Excel spreadsheet, load those into Excel. If you look at a macro file, you'll notice it looks kind of like an Excel spreadsheet with the fields in there. You can make your changes, update, add new lines, all the kind of stuff that you would want to do in there. And then when you go, when you're done, you can import, and you'll see that in the corner of the import tool, You have the ability to import either, again, the XDM, which is the default TriCaster format, or the spreadsheet format can be loaded back in. And then this will re-import all your changes, and effectively you could build these macros offline and bring them back into the system when you're ready. So that's another little nicety added in that some people very well might be able to take advantage of if they do a lot of macro design and programming with their system. So I hope that you found these new enhancements worthwhile, and I invite you to go download the Rev 7 software and Premium Access when it becomes available shortly. Thank you.